Welcome to Notes on Mole Conversions. Okay, so just like you should know, there's 12 inches in a foot, and that's an equivalence, and we can set them up as ratios. In other words, we could say 12 inches per 1 foot, or we could say 1 foot per 12 inches. We're going to do that similarly to this. So if I were trying to convert from inches to feet, I could just do it in my head, but the method I'm going to show you is to help us see what's coming up. So let's say we want to know how many inches are in 5 feet. So you're going to set up a grid, and these grids should look familiar to you from previous first semester work. So here's the little grid, and you're going to put your starting number, or your given, starting's maybe a bad word, your given number and your given unit in the first space here in the top grid. And then you have to figure out from your conversion factor, so 12 inches to a foot is a conversion, right? So you're going to figure out what has to go down here so that feet will cancel. Well, you got to put feet down here. So I know I have to put feet down here, the unit of feet, and the numeric value that's with the unit of feet is 1. So I put 1 foot there. And then what's equal to it goes on top. So where we're going to goes on top, I like to say. You're going to hear me say that a lot in the next couple of sets of notes. We're trying to go to inches. So currently, I can put feet down here so it cancels. I know that 1 foot equals 12 inches, so they will be set up as a ratio. So I put the 1 foot down here, so feet to feet cancel, and I put the 12 inches there. So 1 foot equals 12 inches. This is a true statement, and I have the units in place so that units will cancel from opposite corners. And I have the right numeric value with the right part of the conversion, meaning 1 foot, 12 inches, 12 inches. You will see that feet cancels, and then what you're going to do is multiply numbers across the top, multiply any numbers across the bottom. We always will just assume there's a 1 here in this first space, unless you're in physics. Then there may be a unit there, but for now, for our purposes in chemistry, we'll say there's just a 1 down here. So you're going to multiply numbers across the top, multiply numbers across the bottom, and then divide the two. So 5 times 12, and we get an answer of 60 inches. So let's say that we want to do it differently. Next problem, how many feet are in 318 inches? So what do? We make our grid, we put our starting number and unit in our top of our first box. So 318 inches. And then we think about what do I have to have in the bottom of the next box so units cancel? I have to have inches. So we're going to put 12 inches, put the inch down there, and then the 12 goes with it because that's the correct numeric value. That's with inch in our conversion factor. What it's equal to goes on top. So 1 foot, we know 1 foot equals 12 inches. The inches had to go here. You should see that the units cancel. And we're left with the only unit we're left with is 1 foot. Multiply numbers across the top, multiply numbers across the bottom, divide the two numbers. So you get 26.5. Pause and make sure you can do this math on your own calculators. Okay, so these are the conversion factors that we're going to use here in just a little bit. As you learned in your video, a mole is equal to 6.022, we'll use 6.022 in our class, times 10 to the 23rd, 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd, whatever. So if you say you have a mole of something, then you're saying that you can count out, if you could count out that something, you would count 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd of that something. So when we say we have a mole of atoms, we're saying we actually have whatever atom we have in our hand, or in our beaker, we have 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd of those atoms. So atoms would go with anything that is an element. Formula units usually go with ionic compounds. Molecules usually go with covalents. I don't really care. These words don't really matter to me. You can interchange formula units and molecules. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to be assessing on that. And particles kind of covers everything and anything. So 1 mole of anything equals 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd of that. So if we had a mole of Reese's peanut butter cups, we would be, well, dead because we would be very, very sick and diabetic. So a mole of something is what I like to call a chemist's counting number. So if I have a mole of something, I have that many of that item. So it's an item. A lot of my students want to make 1 mole equal this many grams. Remember, grams will never be after the 602 to the 23rd. You can't have a mole of a gram because a gram is not an item. Okay, so 1 mole equals 602 to the 23rd times 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd, whatevers. In this case, we're going to be using atoms, formula units, molecules, and particles. Really don't care. These words, atoms, molecules, formula units, particles, can really be put anywhere. It doesn't have to match up perfectly. Let me explain as we go. This is just, in the past I've had my kids make an index card, put this on one side of the index card, this on the other side. So if you want to do that, just have a flip card. So one side you'd make this card, and on the other side of the card you'd make this, and then you could use it to help you. Pause the video if you'd like to do that, and make yourself a flip card on paper or on an index card if you have some. We're not going to make those right now. Okay, this is just, you're going to see these conversion factors. These are all the conversion factors we're going to work with. We're going to be mostly today in this set of notes working with this top one. We will deal with the second one, but we will not, due to curriculum restrictions, we will not get to this last one this year. Okay, so those again are all those conversion factors just laid out in a different way. We'll be talking about all of these. These last four are the ones we're going to be dealing with in this sets of notes. Later on, phase 2 of this, we will talk about this top one. So we're just dealing with these. I would jot those down somewhere, these last four, on a piece of paper somewhere. So pause the video and do that. Maybe at the top of your paper where you're going to do your work in a little bit. Okay, so for example 1, it says how many moles are in 2.017 times 10 to the 10th formula units of aluminum sulfate. Okay, so just like before, whatever the number you're given, you're going to place in the top box. So you're going to place your number in this case, and it's very important that I must see all of your work. If you do not show your work like I'm modeling, I will not give you credit for it. So be sure that you're showing all of your work. So you're going to put in this top number and its unit and its chemical formula. So number, unit, formula. When I say formula, I mean chemical formula. You may abbreviate formula units as FU. Stop laughing. Okay, so this number here, and I put my number, my unit, and my chemical formula in the top box. Now the conversion factor that has formula units in is like this, right? So in the bottom, so that units cancel, I have to have formula units of this compound. So I'm going to put that in there, formula units of Al2, so now I know units will cancel. What number goes with formula units is the 602, not the 1, the 602 to the 23rd. So 602 to the 23rd is there. What it's equal to goes on top, and it's equal to moles of aluminum. What number goes with moles of aluminum sulfate? In our conversion factor, we know 1 is equal to 602 to the 23rd. Notice that I have a number, unit, formula, a number, a unit, a formula, a number, unit, a formula. That is a must if you want credit for your work. If you do not, when you have to submit work, if I don't see this, just like I'm modeling here, you will not receive credit for your work. So we see that formula units of aluminum sulfate cancel, formula units of formula units, and it's the same chemical, and it's the same unit. So they cancel directly. Then again, we're going to multiply numbers across the top, multiply any numbers across the bottom, divide the two. I don't like to take the time to do all that. Here's another method. I would multiply this times this, hit equals, divide by this, because it's on down, so down, when it's down, you divide. Again, this number times this number, divided by the number, so 2.017 times 10 to the 10th times 1 equals, divided by 602 to the 23rd, equals, and then you should get this. Now, I'd like you to pause this, but before you pause, I want you to remember how we put the numbers in for scientific. To put the numbers in for scientific on your calculator, you're going to type in 6.022, and you're going to look for the EE button on most of your calculators. So your EE button should be above the number 7. It usually takes a second function to hit it. Some of your calculators may just have an EE button directly. If you have a Casio, you're going to look for the 10 to the N button. If none of those two buttons, if you do not see the EE button or the 10 to the N button, please send me an email with a picture of your calculator and I will help you figure that out. I know you think that you can put in science numbers with other methods. However, I warn you, you are going to get wrong answers if you do not use the EE button. That is the only way you should be putting numbers in. So let me walk you through how to put it in your calculator. 2.017 EE 10. So I think 1E should appear on your screen. So on your screen, if you're typing with me, you'd have 2.017 1E and then a 10. And then you're going to hit divide by, because there's no sense to multiplying by 1, it's the same. Hit the divide button. 6.022 EE 23. So on your calculator, that number should look as 6.022 1E and then the 23. Hit equals, and then you should get this answer. You need to pause and make sure that you can use your calculator properly and do this math and get my answer. Example number 2 shouldn't look like that. Let me try that again. Okay, starting with example number 2. So we're going to start with the number, unit, and formula that we're given. So 4,551 moles of carbon. Okay, and then we know we have to have the same unit down here, so it cancels. So at the bottom, we have to have the same chemical formula and unit. So moles is my unit, C is my chemical formula, so moles of carbon, so they cancel. And I look at my conversion factor, just like 12 inches a foot, this is 1 mole equals 602 to the 23rd atoms. So I know moles of carbon goes here. The numeric that's with the conversion factor is 1, so I put a 1 with that. What's equal to goes on top. So atoms of carbon, 6.022 to the 23rd. So remember, I can put any chemical formula after the word mole and any chemical formula after the word atom. Technically, they'd be atoms, but it doesn't matter if you're using atoms or molecules or formula units or particles. Really, it's all the same. Okay, so we're going to see that our units of moles of carbon cancel. That's good. So the only units we have left is atoms of carbon. So now you're going to multiply 4,551 times 6022 EE to the 23rd and hit equals. Make sure that you get this answer using your own calculator. It's very important you can do this. Please do not use the caret key. Please use the EE function. Otherwise, there will be times when your answers come out wrong. I can't explain when and how, but it happens. You have to use the proper way of putting in scientific notation. I cannot stress that enough. Also, remember, to receive credit, you must have a number, a unit, and a formula everywhere. Number, unit, formula. Number, unit, formula. Number, unit, formula. If you do not have these things in place, you will not get credit for your work. Okay, example 3. How many molecules of this? This is molecules because it's a covalent compound, but I don't care if you use the word atoms here, right? Or formula units of particles. Really, that's just being super technical. But how many molecules of C7H14O2 are in 15.78 moles of C7H14O2? So what do? We start with our grid. We're starting with our number and our unit and our formula that we're given. We know that down here has to have the same unit and chemical formula to cancel. So we got to have moles of C7H14O2. What number's with the word mole in our conversion factor? 1. And then what is equal to goes on top. Molecules of C7H14O2. The number with that is 602 to the 23rd. Again, notice that everything has a number, unit, and a formula. Number, unit, formulas, number, unit, formulas. So once you see, I didn't show these canceling, but this would cancel with this. Moles of C7H14O2 would cancel from the top and bottom, giving us the right answer. Multiply these using my EE button for my scientific number, and you get this. Again, I would encourage you to try all these on your calculator to make sure you know how to use your calculator properly. Yes, sometimes the caret key will work, but most of the time it won't, so please avoid the caret key. Okay, example 4. How many moles are in this many formula units? Formula units is used instead of atoms and molecules because this is an ionic compound. That's why technically we'd use the word formula unit. So we're going to start with what we're given. 7.039 times 10 to the 3rd formula units. Have to have formula units so it cancels. We know the number of its formula units is 602 to the 23rd based on our conversion factor down here, or the one we've written on our piece of paper. We know what it's equal to is 1 mole, so what it's equal to goes on top. So when I cancel, when I cancel formula units to formula units, the only unit I have left is moles, and that's what I'm asked for. So then I would multiply, hit equals, divide by this. Okay, and I get the answer there. So again, check your calculators, make sure. All right, on some paper, I want you to, based on your favorite month of the year, try one of these. I don't care which one you try, just try any of them. Pause before you go on. Was your answer right? If it wasn't, go back to the previous, rewind, and try another one. I was about to tell you to go back to the previous slide. I guess you can't do that. Rewind a little bit and try a different one and make until you get the right answer. If you try 4 times and you're not getting the right answer, take a picture of your work and send me an email so I can help you. All right, based on your favorite Disney character of the ones that are listed, try one of these problems. Pause now and check your answer in a moment. Were you correct? If you weren't, rewind and try another one. If you've exhausted all 4 and you don't get the right answer, please take a picture of your work and send me an email so I can help you. That's it, folks. Look on Schoology for your next steps.